Hey everybody, this is my favorite time of year because we're going to go do tiny trucking at a great big event. This is, I think, the first RC four-wheel drive scale challenge event that they've had in Canada. RC four-wheel drive has sponsored a couple other big Canadian events like Quebec Scale Jamboree, but this is the first time that they're headlining an event. It's in Milton, Ontario, link below. And you guys remember before we did 2014 East Coast Scale Challenge, we did a scoring video on Dana's white Class 1 Blazer. I think you remember that video. Link below. If you want to do Class 1 scoring, check that out. This time, in this video, we're going to score, this is a Class 2 Jeep. Class 2 because no fender coverage on the tires and the tire size is bigger than 4.19. That kicks us into Class 2 automatically. So we're going to score this according to the 2015 tally sheet. And if you need a 2015 tally sheet, link below. This happens all the time in the GCM videos. I get comments below from guys that are on their mobile devices, and they write comments below saying, "You talked about links, but I don't know where they are." Use the description box in the video, okay? Scroll down, touch the button. If you're on a mobile device, open up the description box. All the links are in the description box, so when I say link below, that's what I mean. If you're on a laptop or whatever computer, you can actually see that. And then go to the description box, click the link, that'll take you to where you need to go. So, you can download a 2015 tally sheet, and I will go through this truck with you right now, and we will score a full Class 2 rig. Keep in mind that for SORRCA rules, link below, for SORRCA rules, Class 1 trucks max out at 60 points. If you have more than that, doesn't matter. If you have more than 50, in Class 2, doesn't matter. So this truck's already scored out at 52 points, so my 50 is my maximum, so after that there's no point in adding stuff on it. You're just adding weight on the truck for no reason. So here's what we're going to do. First of all, on the 2015 tally sheet, you got to write in the name of the driver, the rig, the class that you're running in, and at the top you'll write your total points that you came up with from the bottom. And we're going to start with the exterior features and body modifications section. Go print your sheet and then come back and watch this video, and we'll go through the whole sheet together. Go print your sheet. Did you print your sheet yet? Okay, now we're going to start. So, the metal features are listed here, and the plastic features are listed here. And then the general body modifications are listed in these three columns. So metal stuff, plastic stuff, body in general. Okay? We're going to check off the boxes that make sense for this particular truck. If you're doing Class 3, whatever, that's fine. You can also mark that on there. So in metal features, what we're looking at with this truck is the interior cage. We're going to score our interior cage. The interior cage for this truck is going to be one row only. And the reason for that is because we only have one row of seats in the truck. Okay? So, as far as the other stuff on the sheet in that section, in the metal section, it doesn't matter to us. Metal, body, exterior modifications. The only thing on this truck that's metal, that's body, that's going to get points is the one row interior cage right here. And to have one row interior cage, you have to have bars that go in front of the row of seats and bars that go behind the row of seats, and if you don't have that, you don't get the points. If you just have a roll bar, that's not an interior cage, that's a different column, and it's in the, I forget which section it's in. It's at the top of the metal features list. You can use this as a roll bar, but you don't get it as cage points, interior cage points, unless you have bars behind the seats and in front of the seats. That's the qualification for roll bar. I mean for interior cage, sorry. Roll bar would be just behind the seats, for instance. You'd get a roll bar point for that. There's no tube bed on this. There's no headache rack. It's not a truggy. It's not a tuber. So none of those things get checked off. If I had 2 rows of seats, like my 4-door JK, if I had 2 rows of seats and I had a roll bar that went all the way across here and across the second set of seats and then down, then I could get 2-row points for interior cage. Integrated shock mounts, if you have multiple axles, you can get 1 pair, 2 pair, 3 pair, 4 pair, and you just tick off a box in there. I don't have integrated metal shock mounts, and even if I did, my points is already maxed out, so it doesn't matter. But a lot of guys, like for instance Rob, Lone Ranger, he's making scale metal frame rails himself, and then he's actually putting metal tube shock hoops on it. Like, he gets points for that, right? He gets points for the front metal tube work, the rear metal shock hoops tube work. So that's where you would check that off. If you have a roof rack or a light bar, you can only pick one. You either get a roof rack, and you can get a metal or a plastic roof rack. You get a point for 2 points for metal, 1 point for plastic. Or you can choose to have a metal light bar, but you don't get double points. Okay, so if you have a metal roof rack and a metal light bar, then good for you. But you can only choose one. So make sure you remember that when you're building the truck, because there's no point. And then you don't have all that metal up high, which is no good for comp either. So this truck is pretty much as comp specific as you can build a truck, because all my weight is down low, and I didn't need these points anyway, so I didn't put it on. I'm going to get hung up on a lot less stuff up top. Plastic features, I got no plastic features, exterior features on here to talk about. Now when you get to the body modification section at the top of the list, right here, body modification section, that section there, I've got full hard body, front to back, so I get full hard body points. Check that box off. That's 8 points, guys. That's a lot of points. If you want to make a difference between Lexan, if you're thinking of building Lexan or building hard body, hard bodies are tough. They're really tough. They look fantastic 99% of the time. They're really, really nice to drive. It's still weight down low. The weight is not very high on this one. It's not a Galant or whatever with a high hard plastic top. It's quite light. And you get 8 points. 8 points. That's a lot of points just for using this body. So if you go to Lexan, you don't get 8 points. You don't get any points for Lexan. So 8 points. That's huge. And then I've got inner fenders. 1 pair of inner fenders that I can claim. Now, in this section, they talk about having a drop bed. If you have a TF2, okay, or you're running a Hilux, or you're running some other kind of a truck where you put a hard body drop bed in it, then you get the drop bed points, which is 3 more points, okay? 3 more points just for doing hard body drop bed. That's a TF2. That's hard body, 8 points. You would get an extra 3 points for the drop bed. That's huge. That's 11 points just for running a TF2 body. Okay, big deal. That's where you check off the drop bed. This is a cargo area. This is not a drop bed. Okay, this is not a pickup truck. If it doesn't look like a pickup truck, if it has anything to do with SUV or UTVs or whatever, it is not a pickup. It does not get drop bed points. This is not a drop bed. This is a cargo area. You'll see that later. Okay, so in my first section, I got my scoring. I got a 1-row interior cage, metal. I got full hard body, and I got 1 pair of inner fenders. Okay, that gives me 12 points on the top of the list. So my section up top here is cage, nothing plastic, full hard body here, and 1 pair of inner fenders, and I got 12 points right here. Okay, now we're going to go to the second section, which is bumpers. I got lots of bumper stuff going on here. They're all metal, so that's good. You get more points for metal than you do plastic, but you get points if you have them. So put them on. Go put bumpers on your TF2 at the back. Yes. So, in the metal section here, metal bumpers, Okay, I've got front, yes. Let me show you what metal bumpers look like. Metal bumpers, okay. I get points for metal front bumper. I also get an extra point for my stinger. I don't have a grill guard, which would be like up over here. If I had one of these loops that goes around here, that would be a grill guard. Grill guard or stinger. Anything that protects the front extra from the bumper, that's an extra point. So I get the 3 points for the metal front bumper, and I get 1 extra point for my stinger in the metal section. And then out back, all metal here. So I get another 3 points for my metal rear bumper. Yes. If you have a plastic bumper here, you'll get your plastic point in the plastic section. 1 point for metal, or 1 point for plastic. You get 3 for metal. Big deal, so go buy metal bumpers. Yes, or make them yourself, which is kind of what I did here. This started off as an RC four-wheel drive bumper, and then I bent it and chopped it and welded stuff on it, so yeah. That gives me, all my bumpers, I get 3 front, 3 rear, and 1 extra point for the stinger, so now I'm up to 7 points. And in my bumper section here, I'm going to have metal, metal, metal checked off, nothing in the plastic, and it's 7 points total for that. Okay? Now, we're going to go to suspension, drivetrain, steering section, which is in the middle of the sheet. And if you have front leaf springs, only leaf in the front, you check that box. If you have only leaf in the back, you check off that box. But if you have front and rear leafs both on the truck, no coil springs, then you get a bonus. So if you have front leaf springs, you get 3 points. If you have rear, you get 3 points. But if you have both, you actually get 7. Okay? So TF2 guys, 7 points. But thank you very much. Guys running sawbacks, front and rear leaf, bonus point, 7 points. So big deal to put leaves on your truck. You don't get any points for having coil springs on your truck. I don't care how nice it is. I don't care if you have cantilevers. I don't care what you got for suspension on the back or the front. If you have coil springs, you get zip. On SORRCA rules, if you have leaf in the front, you get 3. If you have leaf in the rear only, you get 3. If you have both, you get a bonus, so you get 7. Now this section, you also check off whether you have extra driven axles. So the 6x6 guys, yes sir. If you have 3 driven axles instead of just 2, you get an extra 3 points. If you have 4 or anything bigger than 4 driven axles, you get 5 bonus points for that. 5 points for the extra axles. Doesn't matter if there's more than 4, you still only get 5 points. The truck is probably already 3 feet long at this point, so I don't know how you're going to turn any of the corners in the courses. Some of them are tight, so beware. Don't build a monster truck with 8 axles on it, because you'll point it out before you're even turning the first corner. So don't do it, because you can't have rear steering. Keep that in mind when you're building multi-axle. So the third little section in the suspension part is all your chassis mounted stuff. Okay, so here we go. Here we go on that. So CMS, I've got a chassis mounted servo here. I get 5 points for that. If you have a class 3 that you're building and you have rear steer and the servo is on the chassis as well in the back for rear steer, then you get an extra 2 points for the rear steer servo. But in our case, we can't do that because it's class 2. A functioning transfer case. Of course, GCM trucks, transfer cases everywhere. So 4 points for the transfer case, 5 for the servo. 3D engine. This particular truck, I do not have a 3D engine. Obviously on our C-Max chassis we have 3D motors and the scale trannies and transfer case and all that, so you get mega points extra for that. If you have a 3D motor and it's somewhere in a realistic placement, meaning not in your cargo area, then you can get the 3D points for the engine, again another 4 points. So in our case we got the CMS in the suspension drivetrain section, we got the functioning transfer case in this section. That gives me a total of 9, okay? So in the center here, the center of the sheet, suspension, drivetrain, steering, I've got chassis mounted servo and functioning T-case, 9 points. Okay, alright. Let's move on to interior. I'll give this a flip. Scoring interior. You got to get points for interior stuff if you actually have a complete interior, okay? Only if. If you have a half of an interior, meaning there's no dash, you don't get points, okay? You can't stick a steering wheel out of your windshield pillar and call that an interior. You don't even get any interior points for that, no matter how much you made an effort. You have to have all the components of an interior to make it work. You need seats, you need a floor, you need a dash, you need a steering wheel. If you don't have those things, you don't get any interior points, period. And it says that right on the sheet, okay? If you look here on the interior section right here, the very first line says 3D interior has to have seats, dash, steering wheel, and a floor. Don't have it? No points. Okay, so make an effort. If you've got one seat only, meaning one bum, you check off the one seat box. In our case, obviously, we have 2 bums in there. We've got 2 dudes, we got 2 seats, so we check off the 2 seats. Or if you have a bench, like a TF2 bench, or a Blazer bench, you get bench seat, which is 2 bums. A bench seat is 2 bums, you check off the 2 seats. If you have a rear set of seats that are operational, I don't mind turned into cargo area. If you have a rear seat as well, you count the extra bums for that. So if you have 4 seats, 4 bums in your truck, you will check off 4 seats. This is where I check off the 3D cargo area, okay? If you have a Blazer and you have a sort of a rear cargo trunk, sort of a SUV sort of back end in it, that's 3D as well, with a floor and sides and a tailgate and whatever, that will get you this 3D SUV cargo area point, okay? If you have a half interior would be where the floor does not drop out from the seat bottom, okay? A half interior is called 2D. For instance, a JK Rubicon from Axial, bone stock, would get you 2D half interior points. The interior components are there. There's a dash, there's a floor-ish thing, there's seats, there's a steering wheel, okay? A Dingo interior will get you that. A universal interior from Dinky RC will get you that. This is a 2D half interior. So then you start counting seats only. You would get 1 seat, 2 seats, 4 seats, okay? That's how that works. When it comes to the next section, realistic human figures, you have to put human figures in there, okay? You cannot put some kind of monster and say that that's your driver, okay? As much as you like that, no. No Star Wars droids, won't work. So, complete figures, meaning feet, legs, knees, thighs, center section, arms, head, all the components necessary to make a person. You can put in a complete figure, and because you can see here at this section of the interior, there's actually 2 boxes right here. See that? There's 2 boxes beside each one, and the reason is because you've got multiple seats. So in our case, we're getting 4 points for this guy, and we're getting 4 points for this guy, because we have 2 complete figures. You can have up to 2 complete figures in your truck. Yes, that's 8 awesome points for slamming 2 guys in your truck that are full figured. That's a lot of points. So big, that's a big deal. Okay, each of those full figure guys is 4 points. The thing is, as you know, you can't put a full figure guy in unless you have a full 3D interior with a dropped floor, etc., etc. So you can see why this is scale stuff, right? Because to get a full guy in, you have to have room for his legs. If you have a half interior, then you end up with stuff like what's next on the list, where you have a knees up guy, okay? Let's say your floor doesn't actually go all the way down. It's kind of like a Rubicon axial Jeep, and you can't fit the guy's legs underneath below the seat level, like this. Okay? see how his legs go down below there. So he's got knees and everything. That will get me complete figure. But if you had to chop off his lower legs to make him fit because you don't have a drop floor, then you get the knees up. Okay? Now, if your dude has no legs at all and you chopped him off kind of like right below his elbow, and then you've got elbows up, that would get you the torso up points. Alright? If you only have shoulders and a head, you've got a couple arms and shoulders and a head, and that's it. There's nothing below his shoulders. If you have nothing below his shoulders, then you get the head with arms, single point, okay? And then you also get 1 extra point each for having some kind of figures in the back. Okay, you can put little kids in there or whatever you want to put in the back seats for passengers 3 or 4, but you only get 1 point each for those. So in our case, we got 2 seats, a 3D cargo area, 2 complete figures, and that gets us 13 points. So this interior section right here, we end up with 13 points right here. Okay? 13 points is a lot of points, just for putting stuff in there that's legit. Okay, we're going to move on to realistic exterior items. This is the second to the last here, right here. These are the non-functional things, okay? This is all the non-functional stuff that you stick in your truck because it looks awesome. Okay, you're not going to use this stuff for actual trail running. It's not like sand ladders or a spare tire. This is just scale stuff. So in our case, we've got blanket, sleeping mat, fire extinguisher, some beers that are getting warm, gas can, and a high lift jack, NOS. Okay, so we got some scale stuff in there. I think there's a thermos in there somewhere, I can't tell. So you just start checking off stuff, and I mean, they give you some options and a couple of blank lines you can fill in yourself, but you get it, there's some options, right? So fuel cell in the back, out the back maybe, a fuel cell, or inside the interior, a fuel cell. Exhaust on your truck, it doesn't actually work. If it's just like a, you know, a drifter fart can on the back, then it's non-working. If you happen to have a smoker, then you get it. You can add that into your functional items if you want. But keep in mind, guys, here's the big list. You can only max out 6 of those. Okay, so we got 12 points for our interior points. We got jerry can hubs on all 4 wheels. Hubs. We got disc and drum brakes on all 4 wheels. Bedroll. We got 2 mirrors, 2 wipers, an antenna, license plate, fire extinguisher, high lift jack, a cooler, which is our booze, and a blanket, which is other. And so we actually have 12 points, but it maxes out at 6, so who cares, right? I got a bunch of stuff in here that doesn't even get me points anymore because I'm only allowed to have 6, and I actually have 12. So my truck looks great, but it doesn't really help me that much as far as points go. And then we start going to functional items, okay? Functional items is great. This is stuff that you would see on a real trail truck that actually works. If it doesn't work, no points. I got headlights, but I don't have working headlights. See this section here, actual working functional items right here at the bottom. You need to have lights that actually light up. I didn't put lights in this, they don't light up, and I don't need them for points anyways because I'm already maxed out. So in the functional item section, you can have a maximum of 8 points, okay? You get 2 points for working headlight and tail light. You get 2 points for a working winch in the front. I have a winch right here, my fair lead right here, and my line coming out. It's a working winch. So I get my points for the 2 points for working winch in the front, 2 points for working winch in the back. A full-size spare tire, if I had it, I would get 3 points for that. The spare tire mount in the back, I get 1 point for that. If I got a tow strap, which I do, I get a point for that. If I got D-rings anywhere on the vehicle, in the appropriate scale spot, I get a point for that. If I have a pull pal, get a point for that. Sand ladders, get a point for that. This is all stuff that you're going to actually use on the trail as recovery equipment. This is why it's functional, okay? This is why your disc brakes on your drum brakes or your scale hubs are not functional. They don't actually do anything for you on the trail. The functional items will. Trailer hitch is a functional item. Snatch blocks, opening doors, opening hood, and a couple other functional things, like if you had smoker exhaust, you would get points for that. I don't. In fact, I didn't even put exhaust on it because my points are already maxed out. And if I have something else hanging out at the back here, it's probably just going to get hung up on tree roots and stuff, so forget it. So my maximum for functional items is 8. I only came up with 5. I didn't even put working lights on this Jeep yet. And so my total points at the bottom, I got 5 points in functional. My total points, grand total, was 52. The class 2 maximum is 50 points for SORRCA rules, as you can see in the link below in the description box. And so this beautiful truck is maxed out. That's it. Maxed out. And I have lots of extra stuff on here that I can't use for points, like all my realistic non-functioning items. So I was allowed 50, I got 52, and that's how you score your class 2. Now, keep in mind there's a class 1 video below where we talk about the differences between class 1 and class 2, and you might want to check that out if you're scoring a class 1 truck, because there's some very specific things you must do on your rig to keep it class 1. For instance, tire size has to be under 4.19 on the spec on the tire. Not on your measurement, on the spec on the tire. It has to be under 4.19 or under for class 1. Okay? Keep in mind also, class 1 has to have fender coverage over your tire. Okay? This is not acceptable at all, because the fender coverage has to cover at least half of your tire tread. Half for class 1. If it doesn't, you need flares or whatever. So if your tire looks like this from the top, where you can only see half your tire tread, that would be class 1. If you can see more than half your tire tread from the top, it's class 2. I don't care how nice your truck is. If your tires are sticking out, you're out of class 1. You're done. Change your tires, put flares on it, or fix your rim offset or something. But you got to tuck the tires in for class 1. The other thing you need for class 1 is the bumper width has to be as wide as the base of the windshield. Okay? So my windshield is probably the widest spot on my truck. My bumper has to be also that wide, and it is not. As you can see, my bumper width stops at the grill. My grill is more narrow here than my windshield. I need a wider bumper for class 1. It's kicked out of class 1 just because of the front bumper, too narrow. Okay? Keep all this stuff in mind when you're scoring your trucks. Check out the class 1 video below, and good luck scoring. We're going to see everybody at the RC 4-wheel drive Canadian Scale Challenge, link below. And we'll also see you guys with your fancy beautiful trucks at the RC 4-wheel drive SORRCA event in East Coast Scale Challenge, which is Rose Point Park at the end of August this year, 2015. Really good time with the RC 4-wheel drive crew. All the best to John Rockcrawler, who is trying to work on his health concerns. John, we wish you the best. We'll see you in August. And thank you guys for scoring your trucks ahead of time. You must have this sheet filled out before you bring your truck to tech, and that will speed up the process a lot. If you don't, you need to bring a sheet and score your truck before you go to tech. We will see you there. For us, it's 3 days away. Have a great time playing tiny trucks. Goodbye.